To the New Zealand Esports Racing Series, we apologise for the technical interruption that has just occurred. This is a grand finals event. It is live. We have people watching it at Respawn Esports as well as across the world, so there's no doubt there's a few technical glitches occasionally, but we do apologise for that. We are now back, and we can now finally talk about our lineup. We've got 9 drivers here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, before we do that, I mean, this is just case in point. We have to shout out the team behind the scenes. They put in a tremendous effort to set up this place and really provide us the tools to do such a quality live final at the level that they have too. Of course, Respawn Esports being the very venue that's allowed us to be here. Plus, we've also had tremendous support from Next Level Racing, Secret Lab, Hoon Corp, Red Bull. I'm probably forgetting one or two. You might have to remind me, but again, so much work has gone in over the last 48 hours to get this venue up to scratch. So again, apologies for such a trivial delay, which actually turned out to be the most minorest of issues. But like you say, we're here. Let's talk about the drivers.
Exactly right. So obviously the format today, it's all about championship points. Driver points have been accumulated through the online season over the last 2 or so months. That equated to your position in the top 10. The top 10 are here today at the live finals, and they have been given some championship points depending on their finishing position within the online season. That puts Matthew McEwen, who got the most points in the online season, in the top spots. He's got 6 championship points under his belt already. Then Rhys Davidson, also known as Big Head Ted, known for his drifting capabilities, let's put it that way. 5 points to his name as he heads into this championship round. And then Gareth Collier, again, we said it a little bit early on. Unfortunately, he was not able to make his flight. Gareth, we see you in chat as well. Hopefully you'll enjoy yourself nearly as much by watching. We wish you were here. We really, really do. Lewis Atkinson will hold on to 3 championship points heading into this live finals. Then it'll be Ben McDonald. We've got Scotty Ray, Scott Greenless, that is. Andre Skeppers, and then Ben Groves, Olaf Flash, and Angus Allen. Now, Angus has actually moved up from the lower division as well, so it's an impressive drive there, as has Ben Groves. So a few drivers through the online season proving they have the capabilities of competing for that drive. And the sponsor we didn't mention, of course, was Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. They are providing the grand prize today.
Oh, bugger, I feel a bit bad about that now. But yeah, like you say, some of those lower ranked drivers are the real beneficiaries of this format that we've been running this season. Of course, with the floating divisions, if you were the top of Division 2, you could have found yourself in the bottom of Division 1. And conversely, if you were in the bottom of Division 1, you might well have found yourself dropping down to Div 2. It was a really dynamic sort of way of doing things. We've never done it before here at the NZERS, and I definitely think we'll have to do it again next season. It just worked, and like you said, now what you've got is the top drivers in the country, isn't that right? So certainly, and we've got some pretty exciting combos too. We were actually talking about this just before the stream, weren't we? We've got 3 distinctively different combos, different cars, different tracks, different set of conditions, just to really sort of throw a bit of tactical, decision making into the mix, and I think it's going to translate into some phenomenal racing. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be great. We're going to take you all through the information. There's a general event schedule. We're going to have our qualifying happening soon. That's going to set the grid for the sprint race that happens next, and then we'll be doing a rolling start in our feature race, which is going to feature all the racing tyres and a very special car as well. But first of all, let's talk about qualifying. Let's give you a bit of information on that right now. And we return to our very, very familiar car. This is the Toyota 86 Group 4. This was used all the way through the online season for every single race. So this is a car that everyone is familiar with. And we'll talk about the track in a few moments' time. But this car has been a staple of consistency. You need to be really consistent with the way you place the car. It's a reasonably heavy car, but it's got a good amount of power behind it.
It's provided us with some truly phenomenal racing. We've enjoyed seeing it in action. And, again, it's got its ups, it's got its downs. It's not perhaps the quickest of the Group 4 class, but when you put it into its own little event like this, it just shines. It's well balanced. It's cheap. It's very entry level. But again, how many titanic battles have we seen over the course of this championship in this little 86?
Yeah, it has been a staple point. And today, for qualifying, this is going to be the car that the drivers are going to be using. Where are they going, you might ask? For qualifying, it's the Tsukuba circuit over in Japan. 2 kilometers and 9 turns. It's tight, it's twisty. There's not a lot of straights. And by the way, it just happens to be raining.
for added fun in racing, just add water. But yeah, absolutely. It's Tsukuba Circuit's pretty iconic. Chances are, if you were playing racing video games in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, there may well have been Tsukuba Circuit in there. Forza, Gran Turismo, Auto Modelista comes to mind as well. Very, very iconic. Very easy to learn, very difficult to master, isn't it? And of course, this, I forget what this layout's called, but this is the full layout. There is a shorter one that sort of shortcuts at turn 6 and gets back onto that final straight. But nope, this is the iconic one. This is the one that everyone sort of, if you say Tsukuba, this is what you'll see.
Exactly right. So this is a very tricky circuit to get very right because there's a lot of small, tight turns. The track does get very, very narrow as well. So this is not going to be the easiest of places to go qualifying. Then you add in the fact that it's raining as well. I believe it's going to be R05 for those familiar with the in-game rain settings. It's not the heaviest, but it's by no means the lightest either. As you can see on the information on the right-hand side, a tight, twisty circuit used for grassroots motorsport featuring grip and drift, used for the best motoring vehicle testing series. And the wet weather, of course, will test our competitors' throttle control. It's going to be a really tricky one. And we need to mention as well the rigs and the setup, because that's another massive aspect of the grand finals. Everyone is sitting in a real sim racing rig. They all have wheel and pedals, and they've all gone through a selection process to who chooses which rig, which has been very, very interesting. And we have to thank for those in the background who have actually provided us with some rigs, because the community has genuinely come together on this one. We were short a few rigs, and boy oh boy, everyone, the people from Wellington, from all over, with a number of people actually taking vans to go and pick up rigs and other stuff like that. They have actually brought their own rigs in for us to use here today, which is incredible.
Yeah, and that's always one of the things about these sorts of live events. You know, when you do online qualifiers, you're in your own home, you're in your own rig, and of course, some people have different wheels and different settings and different seating positions, but when you come to these live events, it's all different. It's not a rig, it's not a equipment that you're used to, and of course these guys have been practicing for the most part of the day, so they've been trying to get as familiar as they can. Like you say, there was a selection process on who got to pick what rig and where, and some guys couldn't really care less, and some guys were super calculated, and I think the brake pedal's better on this one, so I'm going to drive that one, and all that sort of thing. It's interesting to see the sort of different thought processes behind it, because you got some people who don't, they could win on anything, and then you have others that they have to have that particular button layout, otherwise they may as well go home.
Exactly right, yeah, and there's been a lot of people who've come down either today, early in the morning, or late last night, so people arriving at all sorts of hours of the day, which has been really, really tricky for the drivers to get used to a rig, a wheel and a pedal setup that is in some ways very, very unfamiliar for them. So let's talk a little bit more about the drivers. We're going to get into qualifying in a few moments' time, but we've got a few driver profiles to get through very quickly. First of all, let's talk about the Palmerston North man and Matthew McEwen. He is a walking meme sometimes, and then other times he is a champion esports racer. He's been to the GT World Series many, many, many times now, and he is basically the shoo-in at the moment for the win. But it's always, when it comes down to the actual race, things always become a lot different.
Yeah, he's definitely the favourite to take this one, and the two drivers that were set to really give him a run for his money, Cy Bishop and Caleb Birtles, unfortunately not able to make it, so that's kind of really opened things up for him. Not to say that he's going to have it all his way. We have seen in the past that sometimes things don't quite go how he envisioned it, but again, as far as favourites, he's definitely one of the ones, and for good reason. He is a World Series driver. He's basically New Zealand's top driver as far as driver ranking and World Series appearances. He spun out doing his Grand Prize race day last year. If he wins this prize, I think he'll try to avoid that a second time. But yeah, look, Matthew McEwen, absolute class act. Like you say, he's got a sense of humour. He's a bit of a meme as well. But definitely one to watch.
For sure. And then Ben Groves, he's the youngster. He's been an up-and-comer. Evolved from the Division 2 entry, won nearly all his races in Division 2, and then ended up, of course, being upgraded into our Division 1 class and got just enough points. In fact, it was very, very close at the bottom of the table, but he got enough points. He earned himself a live finals drive, and he is here today with his father, and they are just the loveliest people, of course, as well. Lovely picture there as well. So Sly Ben the Cat with Liam Lawson. Great picture, of course. Liam Lawson, Enough said.
Yeah, he was one of the big benefactors of the whole floating divisions format, wasn't he? And like you say, he was just so dominant in those Div 2 races. He got put up with the big boys, and again, he had his ups and downs, but ultimately he was he did enough to end up here, didn't he? So now it's going to be really cool to see, and he's one of the young guns too. He's very, very early in his sim racing career, and with his dad sort of in tow to support him along the way. That's awesome. That's the family dynamic you want to see.
Certainly is. Then Ben McDonald, Palmerston North, 404 liveries not found. We did try and get some livery photos there, but of course NZ Crimson came 6th in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series, so a face that we have seen here before at the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. And he's also not just a single game kind of person. World Esports Games 2018 in StarCraft. That is massive because that is a super, super competitive place to be. So he certainly is aware of how competitive the gaming industry and scene is.
Yeah, he was one of the real not quite hard luck stories last year, but like you say, he came 6th. He was very almost in the top 5, but he just couldn't quite put it together when it counted. So he'll be hungry to do better this year. And again, we were talking to him previously, earlier this morning, and he's really put in the hours. Of course, these guys have known about these combos for a few days, so they've had some time to log a few laps, do a bit of testing, and of course with the wet weather too, that obviously chucks in a bit of a variable. Yeah, he's definitely hungry to do better for 2024.
Then it is Lewis Atkinson. He's a Hoon Corp Esports driver, as you might be able to tell. We do have Nathan Howe here, who is the team owner of Hoon Corp Esports. So I'm going to not let him speak at all because there's going to be bias. Nonetheless, the runner-up, of course, of 2023's NZ Esports Racing Series. He is a name that is so familiar to so many of us in the GT7 community, whether he is there doing some good strategy calls or maybe some questionable ones. Nonetheless, he is a very, very quick guy. He's super fun to be around.
Yeah, he was the runner-up last year, second only to Matt McEwen, and he was pretty dominant runner-up. He was second in quali, second in the sprint, second in the feature. I think this year he's probably going to want to go for a couple of firsts, isn't he, George?
I think so. Reese Davidson, come down from Auckland, of course. Big Head Ted is his handle, and he finished 7th in last year's NZ Esports Racing Series finals. He's the undisputed Limbo champion, and boy oh boy, this man can drift. He can go sideways, and he knows what he's doing. We saw him on the rally circuit earlier on, and he was just setting, unbelievable times. So this is a man who knows driving. This is a man who has a really good feel for the wheel and pedals.
Yeah, there's a bit of expectation there for him to do well in this qualifying format, especially with the heavy rain too. It's not just a little bit of, the track's a bit damp, like it's outright raining. And he's definitely got the throttle control and the reactions to be able to gather it up, if indeed it does get a bit out of shape, which of course, other interesting thing about the way these races are run, no traction control, George. So, these guys are going to really have to be a bit delicate on their throttle application. And Reese is he's done a bit of that sort of thing. Man of many talents. So yeah, I definitely would put him as one of the favourites to do well in this quali session.
And of course it is Olaf Fresh, a personal friend now of Nathan Howe, and he'll talk more about him or say some embarrassing things, I'm sure. Finished 3rd in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series Split 2. So finding himself up in Div 1, he's improved. He's got himself some really, really good technical skills out there on the track, and he's done incredibly well. So great to see him making a reappearance here at the Esports Series, and especially to make it to the live finals. That is an impressive run up the ladder.
Yeah, old Olaf, seen there trying out Bonnet Cam in real life. Finished 3rd in the Split 2 last year. So, again, last year we didn't do floating divisions, so because he was Split 2, that meant he wasn't able to compete. This year, here he is. He's actually made the cut, and again, he's a bit of a silent achiever. I think you'll find he's not very, not overly stated, but he does definitely have the pace to be here, and it's well deserved. He's definitely going to do particularly well, I do reckon.
Exactly right. So as we barrel towards qualifying now, we have 3 other drivers to mention. We don't actually have driver profiles for them. Unfortunately, we were just not able to get them done quite in time, but we're going to talk about them nonetheless. Scotty Ray is the first one that we're going to talk about. He's a young man. He's got his dad in tow as well, so he's not the only one. We've got Ben Groves and his dad, and we've got Scotty Ray and his dad, so that's the Greenless family. And he is a fantastic chap as well. I saw some of his laps earlier on in the wet. He is quick.
Yep. And again, Rain is just such a completely different animal when it comes to racing. He hails from the Manawatu, and Yeah, I mean, his performances this season have been super consistent. He bagged that last critical point for the online season, so he's going in with a little bit more of an advantage over the some of his peers. And again, he's going to really want to put that point to good use.
Exactly right. Then, of course, it is Andre Skeppers, and I will, of course, pronounce that incorrectly. He's a South African native, I believe. We'll have to double-check that one. Nonetheless, he is coming from Canterbury, and he is a fantastic young man. He is one of those that manages to make it up from that Division 2 cut-off all the way through into the live finals, which is super, super impressive. Had a few interesting runs, but his early races in Div 2 were very successful. Bagged himself a podium position in round 1, which was excellent, and got a 5th place once he got up into Division 1. Very, very impressive. I think that was a Division 1 finish. I'll double check that, but I'm 99% sure it is. Nonetheless, Andre Skeppers, hopefully it'll go lekker for him.
Well, other people's pain is his benefit, and again, with a few drivers missing, he did get the call up. How good, though? I mean, I'm sure he's not complaining, and we know he's quick. He's definitely proven himself with a couple of Div 1 cameos, so it'll be interesting to see how he'll be able to do here in Wellington in the live finals.
Exactly. Then finally, Angus Allen. We're about to go into qualifying. Angus Allen, he is claimed now to be the oldest competitor here today in the live finals. Probably doesn't want me to tell them his exact age, which we don't actually know, but he's given us an indication. Nonetheless, Angus Allen, such a nice dude. Also, another surprise jump up into the live finals as a result of a couple of drivers not being able to make it here today. He is going to be in the box seat for this one. He's going to have an absolute spectacle. Wherever he ends up starting from, there's going to be action all around him.
Mate, he doesn't look a day over 25, I'll tell you that, though. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely one of the characters. And, yeah, see, again, we've just got such a good spread of genuine good buggers in this competition. No one's high and mighty. No one's, I'm better than you. Yeah, these guys are a lot of these guys are mates. They all get along well. And, yeah, how good. This is just such an awesome little competition. And, yeah, I think we're nearly ready to kick off qualifying, hopefully, George. And what appears to be quite the rain-soaked Tsukuba circuit. I'm not sure if it's the rain's picked up since the lobby opened. It's certainly looking a bit more.
We apologise yet again for the technical interruption. These things are unfortunately plaguing us here in the broadcast studio today. We're going to jump straight into qualifying, so let's go there right now.
Awesome. Well, you're looking at a very, very wet Tsukuba circuit. These guys are going out at, I believe it's 30 or 40-second intervals. This is a shootout format. Now, we didn't really touch on the exact format we're going for qualifying here. It's a shootout format, so they only get one lap to make or break, do or die, but they do get a staggered start. So they should be pretty away from each other. No one should really interrupt each other's laps. Angus GTR is leading us out as the lowest, I suppose, the last place in the current standings. So this is his do or die lap. If he bins this one, he's got to park it up and just do with what he does. But we also do have Clan and Sly Ben out there at the same time, so it's going to be a bit hard to sort of follow their laps individually like you would with a normal shootout. But, we'll do our best, George. We'll do our best, won't we?
We certainly will. And one of the great things about having a live event is the fact that we are able to bring up the live cameras. There is Angus Allen on our screens right now as we follow along with his qualifying lap. The timer is ever so slightly wrong at the moment. We do have 10-minute qualifying. We're a couple of minutes offset with that to look at the bottom left of your screen for the actual timer. But Angus Allen is now out on his lap, and boy, oh boy, I mean, the car's body language right now, it looks very sketchy. It's a little bit of a wide line through that last hairpin. Tricky braking zone to that. Luckily, it is on camber. Does mean you can get the power down reasonably well, but the TC0 is designed to challenge these drivers to the limit.
Yeah, absolutely, and they are on sport tyres, so they do have something in the way of rain. They're not wet weather tyres, but they can handle a bit of water. It's not like slicks where you absolutely struggle to make any ground whatsoever. He's going to come across the line really soon. Let's see what his time is, a 17.2. So that's your first lap to sort of open this account, which sounds about right. In perfect conditions at Tsukuba, you're looking at about probably a minute 5, a minute 10, depending on the car. This is, of course, the road-going Toyota 86. It's not the Group 4, as we previously mentioned, so different performance there. Clan Fever, what's that, a 1:15.5? So again, A lot of these guys, it's one lap do or die. They don't get time to sort of warm up, get a groove, and the track to get a nice dry line. But yeah, certainly it's interesting to see how they do in that one lap pressure moment. So you can see Sly Ben the Cat, 1:19.7, so he's going to sit there at the back for the time being. We've got a few other drivers out there on track now. Stone Harbour, Scotty and Crimson are all out there about to get their laps underway.
That's right, a little bit of a slide there for Sly Ben the Cat. So unfortunately that'll be his lap over for the most part, just for the moment. Lots going on in the background as well. As you can see, the cameras all up on screen, so it's a tricky, pressured environment for all the drivers. Here's Stone Harbour, so it's Andre Scheppers. He is now out for his lap. We'll see if he's able to get a decent time in. Clam Fever is leading us away with a 1:15.565. That is a very decent time in these conditions. So Clam Fever, it's really setting the bar high. Oh, that's very deep into the third, fourth corner there for Stone Harbour, and you can see the rear end just doesn't want to apply the power. Group 4 car's got a lot of power. TC0, you are not going to get a lot of that down on track, unfortunately.
Yeah, and especially, Gran Turismo 7 does such a good job showing where the water is on the track. It's not just a wet surface across the board. There's high bits, there's low bits, the water will flow and it'll puddle down there and it'll be a bit drier up there. So this is where wet lines come into play, because of course when you're on a wet track, you actually want to drive offline. You want to try and find the spots that aren't rubbered and slick, because when those bits get wet, there is even less grip than if you were offline. So Stone Harbour made a bit of a mistake there, but he is still purple sector at the moment. He's 8/10ths up, so it might not have necessarily been a bad thing, George. It'll be interesting to see how much he can put together this lap as he's coming across the final line. Gets it a bit loose on the rubber there, but he's still enough to go pole. 14.3, George. That is a tremendous effort. And look at him. He's proud of himself. He looked super accomplished there. Scotty Shots up next. He's going to come across, and again, up purple, only just though. 0.89 of a second. What's he going to do? What's he got to answer? Stone Harbour, a 14.3. He's going to come along. Scotty is going to do a 14.1, so that's good enough. That is currently top of the tables. But again, we're running a reverse order now, so the higher ranked guys are making their way around too. We've got Crimson, Lewis and Ted currently out there at the moment too. And dude, how all of them going on this super wide bit there too, which is a bit slick and slippery. 16.2 there for Crimson, looking very nice in the bright shiny green. You won't miss that one in a wet weather scenario. Who's next? Is that Lewis? Yep, so HC Lewis coming around. We missed that final sector, so I don't know if he's up or down or in or out or what he's doing. Oh, no, that's his outlap. Never mind. All right. So we got a little bit to talk about this format. This is very, like I said, it's do or die, isn't it? You either have the stuff or you don't. So, I don't know. But how are you in the wet, George?
I'm okay for the most part in the wet weather driving. It's not too bad. I do like this circuit. I do like the wet weather. These cars, though, with TC0 in the wet, I don't think that's my cup of tea necessarily. You can see how much struggle there is through that hairpin. It's so tricky to get the power down in these cars. That's a purple first sector for Lewis, who is deciding to do a little bit of sideways drifting here, which is actually the way that you need to maneuver these cars. Not like that, though. This is a little bit stylish, I think, to be necessarily fast, but we shall see. Sometimes in the wet conditions, you can find that the car maneuvering like that will actually be reasonably quick. It's all about how you can manage the steering input. If that car's rear end is wiggling, you need to be wiggling that steering wheel to get it back in line so that you can keep all four tyres on the road to maximise that grip.
Certainly right, and you saw him clip the grass just on the end of the on the exit of that hairpin there too. I don't actually know many of the corner names at Tsukuba. I don't even know if they have corner names necessarily. They're kind of just designated numbers. But either which way, he goes very deep on the last corner. Good for third place, 14.9. So he'll probably be a bit gutted with that one. He knows some of those sideways antics have probably cost him a bit of pace. Speaking of sideways antics, we have Mr. Drifter himself, Reese Davidson here. He's 8/10ths up purple sector, and I mean, look at him there, just masterful wheel work. He's very comfortable in these low grip conditions, and sure enough, a 13.1. So we're really getting into those pointy end of the laps, aren't we? And yeah, he knows it. He's happy. Bit of showmanship to sort of conclude his lap.
Absolutely, and then of course it is Matt McKeown. He is our 2023 championship winner. And he is going to be setting his lap now, and it is another 8/10ths of a second faster than Big Head Ted. And look at that man. He is cool, calm and collected. And that was a fantastic lap by Matt McEwen, showing us the car control that he has in these Group 4 cars. I'm sure we'll be seeing even more of that later on. That looks to be our qualifying more or less done. That is the order that we're going to be going into our sprint race for. Interesting way to begin things with the wet situation here at Tsukuba. Some really, really good laps out there. I think obviously notably Scotty Ray up into P3, Andre Skeppers P4, Lewis finds himself in P5, and then Big Ed Ted up into second. He was talking to me earlier about how he felt he didn't deserve the second place in the championship standings that he's at. I think this says otherwise.
Mate, part of the thing of being a professional driver is you have to be competent in any and all conditions. It's not just a case of on a sunny day, balmy and mild, nice good track temp, and on your soft racing tyres. No, you have to be able to do whatever. They give you the tyres, they say, here's your slicks, it's peeing down with rain, go get us a world championship. And, he's done it. He's second in the standing, so he's definitely deserved. He can't be so harsh on himself. And I mean, even look at him there with Matthew McEwen. They're swapping jabs and camaraderie. It's just awesome to see. I mean, like I said, most of these guys get along really well. If not, they're good mates. And yeah, such an awesome format. Tsukuba Circuit never ceases to disappoint, especially when you have a rear-wheel drive car with no traction control.
Exactly, yeah, and this is the nice thing about it. It mixes up the grid, gets things all prepared for what should be a very, very good start to our sprint race coming up. We'll have more details on that in a few moments' time because it's a different car. It's a different circuit. There's different rules. There's strategy involved. We have to go through all of that information, and we'll have our interviews for our top 3 in qualifying in a few moments' time. That's going to be Matt McEwen, it's going to be Reese Davison, and it's going to be Scotty Ray. So this is looking like a good scenario. We will get the chaps over in a few moments' time. We're also hoping to get some results up on your screens too in a few moments' time, but it sounds like we may be going straight to our interviews first. So our first interviewee, of course, is going to be P3 Scotty Ray. He'll be jumping into the interview box, getting his microphone turned on, and then we will be having a chat to him. Let's go to the interview now. Okay, Scotty, do you hear us? Hopefully we see you. For some reason, we are not seeing you, so we'll double check and get this camera working. For some reason, it's having a couple of problems today, and let's see if we can get that up and running. Maybe it just won't do it. Maybe it just won't work today. That is just sometimes how it goes. But nonetheless, Scotty, tell us about your qualifying as we